Hey everyone, welcome back to the show. I'm Annie.
And I'm Peter.
Even if you're just a casual or a mobile game player, you can join us every week and we rant, rave, and ramble about games we like.
Or maybe we don't like.
Now it's time to ask, what is this game?
It is Guild Wars 2.
All right, Guild Wars 2 is a game that I wanted to kind of start the podcast to talk about Guild Wars because it's a game I really love and it's a game I've sunk a ton of hours into. Um, it's one of my favorite games to play, and there's a ton to do in the game.
And honestly, I've come to learn why you love this game so much over the last maybe 2 weeks. This is an amazing, fantastic game.
It's an MMORPG, which is massive multiplayer online role-playing game. It's pretty fast-paced. The game focuses pretty heavily on the character combat, and there's a lot of character customization on top of that. There are 9 different classes, 8 if you don't have the free-to-play. You get the 9th class if you buy the first DLC, which is called Heart of Thorns. And then there's 19 different weapon types. And each of these different weapons function vastly differently on each of the different classes. So if you're a warrior with a sword or a thief with a sword, you're going to have very different skills with that sword. And it might function completely differently. For example, a necromancer wielding an axe can swing it with dark magic, and it's a ranged weapon instead of a melee weapon.
Also, can we just talk about Necromancer with an axe is so badass. It just felt so good. I was a Necromancer for a long time. I started off as a thief, and then I moved into a Necromancer. And I was like, okay, I'm going to be like a guy, and he's going to have a staff. And then they gave me an axe. And I was just hacking and slashing through all these monsters. And I was like, this feels so good. I love this.
Yeah, and you mentioned to me that you felt yourself accidentally walking into enemies because you just forget, oh, I have an axe. It's ranged because I'm using magic. I don't have to go over there and smack them. I can stay back and let my little minions that I can summon with using my dark magic and have them protect me while I just axe them up.
Yes, I definitely was Gordon Ramsaying them from like 2 meters away for my first 30, I want to say 30, 35 levels before I realized, wow, I have incredible range on my axe. That's crazy. That's ridiculous to me. And from then on forth, I was just like this ranged axe lobbing dark magician of chaos.
So with you now having an experience of getting a character from 1 to level 80, which is the maximum level for all characters, and not using a boost to just get yourself there instantly, how would you say your experience was in leveling? Would you feel like you had to grind it all? Were there any points where you felt like you were particularly stuck behind an objective? How was your experience?
So there was definitely a point when I was playing my thief where I was like, okay, because the way Guild Wars 2 works is every 10 levels you unlock a story mission. And so, level 10, you unlock the first chapter of your story missions, and so on and so forth. So in between level 11 and 20, you would have to grind. So when I was playing my thief, I felt like I had to grind a little bit. Like I was like, this is not too fun. When I got to my Necromancer, I don't know, like the instinctive urge to like explore the world took over. And I was exploring the world a lot more times than I was doing the story missions. So when I had to do the story missions, I had like, oh, I'm still doing chapter 2, but I'm level 40, so I should be doing chapter 4 missions. So I have all these backed up story missions that I can do that I haven't done because I've just been interacting with the world and the world environment and just all the events that are going on concurrently. Is that the right word I want? I don't think so, but whatever. There's just a bunch of events happening all at the same time, and I ended up doing all those instead of doing the story. And then I would go to the story and I would just like do a bunch of them. So no, I guess to answer your question in a very roundabout way, I didn't feel like I had to grind very much when I was doing my necro.
Well, that's really good because in my opinion, Guild Wars really the way they do their model, they call it the open living world, and it's called living because each season different things happen in the world. Like in season 3, some of the dragons attacked and one of the maps changed, and traversal was changed in season 2 because one of the dragons attacked waypoints. So certain waypoints weren't active and you couldn't go to certain parts of the map with just by teleporting. So the map changes depending on the season, which is where the living world comes in. And you mentioned the events. Events are happening on a constant rotation. There are big bosses, there are protect villagers, there are collect things for people. There are a dozen different events that just happen all the time. And you'll just be walking, and then suddenly you'll just see an orange circle appear, and it's like, hey, you want to go help out over here and do an event for extra XP? And as Peter was saying, there wasn't times where he had to just go sit in a forest just killing a bunch of high value mobs to get XP, because he would just go walk into an event and do an event and be like, all right, here's 80% of your level. There you go. It's like, there's your reward.
Yeah, it was ridiculous how much XP was just lying around to just be grabbed. Like it was just ripe for the taking all over the world. And you just end up leveling without even noticing it.
That's
Like
because
I was
everything gives you XP. Everything.
every
If you
single
if you
thing.
hit a little mining thing to get some copper, you get XP every time you hit it. If you kill a monster, you get experience. If you help somebody kill a monster, you discover a new area. You walk into a point of interest, which is it's literally just like a square on the map, and you walk into it and it's got a named location and you can
It's just
explore
like a
those.
cool little location. There's nothing going on there sometimes, but it's just like, look, I put a lot of effort into this, mom, so I'm gonna make it a named location.
So you can just go over there, and instead of just being like, oh, cool, I guess this named location has story or whatever, you go over there and you get XP for exploring it. You're rewarded for the adventure that you go on. And before you
Oh,
know it, you're walking into parts of the world that you've never seen before. You're just like, hold on, is that a volcano over there in the distance?
definitely. And I also want to touch on vistas because I think they're really cool. So Vista is like this little location that you can go to. It's usually up on a high vantage point, and once you get there, you hit E or whatever keybind you have selected, and it just gives you this panoramic cinematic view of the world around you and the environment around you. And I thought that was really cool because even
Yeah.
though it's like a low res kind of like, I don't want to say it, but it is kind of World of Warcrafty kind of vibe to it.
Well,
Like the
yeah, the game came out in 2012 and it hasn't had a massive graphics overhaul.
yeah, not to its detriment because it's still an amazing game despite like
It's
having
carried by its art style.
yes, definitely.
hmm Its
So,
graphics, yeah, are a little dated in some areas, especially in the starter areas for like the humans. You can tell that this was made a long time ago.
but it doesn't feel like ancient. It doesn't feel like it's past its prime in any way.
No, because they keep it fresh. They have like I said, there's events all the time. There's hundreds of new players just running around. You can meet new people. Uh there's well, like veteran players on new characters, so they're zipping around the map at blinking speeds. You just look overhead and you see a dragon just flying, or well, not technically a dragon, they're drakes. They're just little baby dragons. And you just see like players just zipping around on them, and you're just like, that'll be me one day.
Like, when I grow up, I want to be that cool. That was me a lot of the time. I would see people rolling along in the mounts, like the little roller beetle mounts, and I was like, I'm gonna be that cool one day. And it's very cathartic now that I have my level 80 necromancer, and he's pretty cool looking. That like I am that cool now. There are little new players that are looking at me like I want to be that cool one day.
You're like, oh man, look at that! Look at his armor; it's so cool. As I touched on, the customization is great. The game has the classical transmogrification system, which means you can change the appearance of a piece of armor or a weapon to a different weapon or a different piece of armor. And you can do that with these little charges. And there's, I don't know, a handful of ways to get them. You can get them by, if you complete a whole map, if you get all of the points of interest, if you get all the vistas, If you complete all of the little help people, they're called renown hearts. It's such as, hey, fight off some centaurs, guard this village, help me pick my vegetables. You know, the typical like boring MMO quests, but they never feel too grindy because of how fast they give you percentages towards the completion of them. If you complete all of these little varied quests in a map, you get a map completion chest. So you'll either get a Black Lion chest key, which is like a rare key to unlock a loot box. And the loot boxes, I mean, it's not like Overwatch or Shadows of Mordor or what is it? The Star Wars game where anything
Battlefront.
important is
Oh my god.
yeah, nothing important in the game is locked behind the Black Lion chests. You can get all of those by trading or just earning them yourself, or if you want to, you can just buy the items directly instead of doing the loot boxing mechanic. The loot boxes are given to you for free, and then you earn the keys through special events. You only get them a couple times, but anyway, you get the key or you get a transmutation charge. If you open the Black Lion chest, you'll also get a transmutation charge. So no matter what, if you complete a map, you're going to be getting these cosmetic charges. So as soon as Peter hit level 80, he's like, time to look good. He just changes a couple pieces of his armor. He gets a nice long cloak. Well, I guess it's a cloak. It's a coat, sort of. It's a little bit of both.
It's a little bit of both.
And then because of his specialization on his necromancer, which we'll get into, he now has like this dark Nazgul-like hood where you can't even see his face. He's just completely obscured.
I want to see if I can pull up a picture. Is there a way to pull up a picture, or does it have to be a video?
At the bottom there, you can present a screen share, and if you have it open in the game, you can just present your game.
Oh, let me see. Because I have...
But anyway, so Peter just starts decorating his character and making him look good, and it, like he just said, it makes him feel so good because it's just a sense of accomplishment. Here, let me see if I can focus that. There we go. For the visual person, you can see him here on screen.
This is my badass necromancer named Nuron, or I forget how to pronounce his name, because that wasn't important to me for some reason for a while. But it was Nuro. I forget. Whatever. But the point is, look how cool he looks. Look how freaking cool he looks.
Head to toe, decked out in black, and then anything that's not black is a vibrant or dark glowing green that just kind of accentuates. And if I could move our character heads here, at the bottom you can see all of his skills are green because that's like the theme of the necromancer. All of its energies are green and necromantic. And I think it's just so cool, the level of customization, because you can have the headgear, which covers your head, obviously. You have your shoulder pieces, you have your chest piece, you have your gloves, your pants, and your shoes. And then you have a back item. And the back items can vary between just being a simple backpack, a chest with some armor on it, which Peter has crafted because there's a great crafting system.
There is such a great crafting system.
And there's even ones like capes, wings. There's all sorts of styles that you can go for. You can just be a humble pirate. You could be a dark necromancer, or you could just be a jolly, sunshiny princess, depending on what you want to go for. There's so much customization options for the style that there are people that go around cosplaying. You'll see people that are dressed up like Iron Man. You can see like Johnny Bravo. You can see people from Game of Thrones, because there's so many different types of armor in so many different colors. And the dyeing, I think there is over 500 different dyes.
There are so many dyes. And
some of them are easy to get, some of them are cheap, some of them are given to you for free, and some of them are exclusive behind events. Some of them cost hundreds of gold, which I didn't know. Somebody the other day was like, hey, does anyone want to buy this dye for 350 gold? I was like, there's no way this really, really white dye is worth that. And then I type into the player market, and I pull up the dye, and it says 386 gold. I'm like, holy crap. And then I check my dyes, and it turns out I have this dye. I don't know how I got it. If I honestly would sell the dye if I I could remove it from my account, because I don't use the permafrost dye. But the point is, the rarity of the dye kind of matters, and you can see people with certain colors, and you're like, Ooh, I know they are either really lucky or really rich.
Hmm. And for anybody who has never played World of Warcraft or any kind of MMO that has like gold, silver, and copper coins, I just want to touch on the fact that like it's by a magnitude of 10. So 350 gold coins is the same as saying 350 million
Copper?
coins.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like that's a lot. Like I was
100
thinking.
copper is 1 silver, 100 silver is 1 gold. They don't use, well, lore-wise, they no longer use the platinum coin as a currency. You can still find them as like trinkets or whatever, but they don't really have a currency value anymore. They're more a collector's item or something to sell to convert to gold. The platinum is kind of an outdated coin.
Can we spend a minute talking about like the lore of this game? Because I have never played an MMO where I cared about characters and the story, and like I've never been this enthralled. Like I've always been the kind of player that's like, okay, well I'm just gonna get to the whatever. I'm gonna go to the trading post and I'm gonna go trade a bunch of stuff. No, like ask Annie. I was crying, celebrating when we beat the final boss of the vanilla campaign or the base campaign when we killed Zaitan the immortal dragon.
Yeah, it's a great achievement because Peter had to get his character all the way to level 80, through his own hard work, and he's doing all of these missions. He's meeting these characters and building these relationships. Uh, a great example, a just one that anyone who's played Guild Wars and done a bit of the campaign will know is Traherne. He's the leader of the pact. He's the Sylvari leader. He kind of it grouped everybody together and inspired everybody to put aside their petty differences to be like, hey, if we don't pay attention to what these dragons are doing, we're probably all gonna die, and then we can't have war later on. If you want to have war later on, whatever. I can't stop you, especially Char. Looking at you, Char.
Look at you, you little iron smelting little war boys. Like, yeah, you go for it. But right now, Zaitan, the necromantic dragon of evil who has resurrected a whole country of zombies, is our main priority. And we murdered him. We murdered him so hard. And it was amazing. Like, characters would come and go throughout the series, and like you'd get like, oh, this character hasn't been around for a while or whatever, and I cared. Like I gave a shit about some of these characters. Like when Ton died,
Yeah,
like
Ton the Demolitionist.
I was so upset. I was so upset because it just came out of nowhere. Like it was such a shit death.
Right,
And
he didn't have to die, but that's the price of war. You don't expect it. The guy says, "Hey, I'll be right back," and then it doesn't come back.
and I don't know, and that's the kind of situation where you end up. Oh, let me stop presenting really quick. I just realized I was still there. And I don't know if that's what was I going to say? If that's a testament to how good the story is and how realistic it is that like he was going on like a no consequence mission and he blew himself up, or like was that just lazy writing? I want to err on the side of that was good writing. That
I think it's good writing.
You never know when you're gonna lose somebody in a war.
Yeah,
And
you suddenly meet a character and you're like, oh, I like this character. They can either last the rest of the campaign or suddenly they could just die off in a mission and you're like, oh, wait, okay, I wasn't expecting to lose anybody. This is a simple, snatch and grab mission.
There was a couple people like that, but Ton is the one that really hit me the hardest because he's just this character that I was kind of like not super fond of at first. I was like, oh, he's just
he's a little immature, he's a little bit too bombastic. He's a little bit too eager. He's a little too green, and you're like, Ton, you'll have your moment to shine, and you build a relationship, teaching him, a little bit of restraint, and the right time and the right place makes for the best demolitionist.
Mm-hmm.
And then
very
he
loud
has to
character
on a mission because one of the detonators isn't working, so he goes to fix it and he doesn't make it out.
The ship just explodes and you're just left there like, Ton? Where's Ton? And I'm thinking the whole time, like, oh, this is just like shitty writing. Like, they just like didn't write in Ton coming back yet. They did it out of order. Ton is dead. Ton is dead. And I cried a little bit.
You felt something, yeah.
I felt something, and I don't get that from any MMOs. Like, I played a lot of New World back when it was good, and or whatever. Good is subjective.
Mm-hmm.
But I played it when it was popular, and I was like, I don't care about anything that's going, like, skip cutscene, skip cutscene, skip cutscene. I don't care. I watched every single cutscene as much as I could from beginning to end of this character's, like, story arc. And when I say this character, I mean my necromancer.
I like the sort of cutscenes in the vanilla campaign too, because whenever you go to a quote cutscene, it lays like a background, sort of like you can see here in the back. It's just like a kind of a scene piece, so you can kind of see where the characters are standing, and it's kind of blurred to put like a depth of field feel to it. And then your characters are standing left to right, kind of talking just directly at each other. So it's not necessarily a cutscene as it is a, like, I don't know, a character-focused dialogue panel.
Mm-hmm.
But it makes it so much more intense because, you know, you can see the characters emoting, you can see them expressing, rolling their eyes, and it's a lot more expressive than the character normally is if they're just, you know, standing out there being like, oh, go over there, do that mission, because, you know, they only have the 1 point animation.
I just remembered Tybalt.
Tybalt.
Oh my god, Tybalt. So there's another character. He's a Char. And he's part of the Order of Whispers. Is that what they were called?
Yep, the Order of Whispers.
So he was part of the Order of Whispers, and he's like your partner. Like,
he's your mentor, buddy. He's your sponsor.
Yeah, he's like your buddy cop, like, mentor partner that you go on missions with. And, you know, you guys grow together and you guys become like this inseparable duo. You rank up in the order together. Mm-hmm. And then Tybalt goes and, like, holds off the dragon, metaphorically, you know, like, run, you fools. You know, he holds off the hordes of the undead at like this fortress while you guys escape. Mm-hmm. And he just dies.
He dies to save everybody that was trying to escape because he holds them off.
And what really got me was that he had said something like before that, like, you know, you've become like a really true friend of mine, and I hope we get to go on many adventures together.
Right, because Tybalt started as like this, partially disabled, like, desk cop because he had lost his hand in an engineering accident and now has like a prosthetic hand, and he isn't as necessarily as efficient on the field, and he's a little bit older, and, you know, so he's not as sharp as he used to be. So he's in the order, but he's kind of literally just like a desk job. And
he's a desk general.
Yeah, and then you come along and you keep getting strapped with kind of important missions, and Tybalt kind of gets dragged along with you, even though he's supposed to be your mentor. And you get him out of the chair, you get him out of the desk, and you get him out and about talking to people. You two save the daughter of a shitty minister because she's trapped, and then she ends up joining the Order of the Whispers. Her name is Demi Beetlestone. She
also grows as a character.
Exactly, because she's just like a kind of spoiled, prissy nobody, and then she realizes, okay, look, I can either, you know, be this, you know, the minister's daughter, and I can just be the typical white girl, I guess, or I can kind of make my own, you know, path, and I can learn from these people that were willing to take me in and save me. And she becomes a valued member of the order because she actually cares to put in the effort.
Yeah, like, she becomes respected, she becomes trusted, and it's just, they didn't have to recast her in another mission after you saved her.
She could have just been a throwaway character.
Yeah, she could have been a throwaway character, but nobody is a throwaway character. If they have a name, they are important.
Yep. If they're not, if they have a name that isn't just like Lion Guard or, you know, pirate or merchant,
Digital Crusader.
And even then, some of those merchants and stuff, they still have their own, like, character, you know, because they're just like regular NPCs and just trying to make the world feel alive. But the characters will So, their example in Lion's Arch, one of the biggest cities, it's like populated by everybody. It's kind of the melting pot. It's kind of in the center of the world, and it's the commerce for all trade. So everybody can be seen there. There'll be like a fisher fishing on the bay, and he won't be catching anything, so he'll get disappointed. And as the day gets later, he'll start wrapping up and he'll leave, and he'll have to go home because he's not just gonna sit there fishing all night. He's an NPC, but he's a person, I guess. So he decides to go home at like 7 or 8, and he walks past a guard, and the guard asks him, hey, blank. And he gives him a name, like even though his character doesn't have a name above him. Because of this interaction, this guard humanizes this other NPC, and it's like, oh, hey, Marcus, it's good to see you. How was the fishing today? You know how it is, Tom. The fishing's never good on this side of the bay. But it's an hour and a half walk to get to the other side, and then by then, it's too late, and it's hard for me to get up in the morning. And this conversation is just something you can eavesdrop on that the developers wrote in there just for people to have that, like, oh, I want to people watch. I want to see if any of these NPCs are going to do anything. And then Marcus will go home and he'll go to his house, and you can't go into his house because it's just a wall, and he just fades into the wall like typical game. But he goes into his house, and then he'll wake up in the morning and try to go fishing again. And he might repeat the same conversation with the guard, but at least it's a conversation they have to make it seem like they're real NPCs and they're real people. And that's just the people without names. You meet one person, you're like, oh, okay, Zoja, I don't know who you are, but you have a cool name, and I like your arm piece. Well, see you later. And then later on, she shows back up again, and you're like, I remember you. I remember your name, or I remember your armor, or I remember that guy you were with. These characters leave an impression on you because I think the writing in the game is actually really good.
I think it does its job, and it hits its mark. It does really well. Like, there are characters that they are the equivalent of throwaway characters in the series, like Agent Zri. Is that the one I like? The little
Asura, the little Asura with the white puffs.
Yeah,
the little white puff hair.
Yeah. There's this little Asura, and we'll get into like what these words Asura, Char, like we'll get into what these mean. Mm-hmm. But there's this little like equivalent of like a goblin dwarf kind of person, and she is an agent in the Order of Whispers. So she's like an assassin. She's like stealthy, kind of like ninja spy kind of person, and she goes with you on certain missions. To just this witty little like one-liner throwing out kind of character, and I just love her because she reappears like 5-7 times. Like, she gets assigned to your squad so many times, and it's like, oh, there's Zri. She's back again. Yay.
And she makes kind of a note of herself being the sort of prankster stealth character. So she'll just be like perfectly stealth, and then she'll just pop up behind you and just be like,
and it's just
hey, look at that. Back. I'm here.
Hey, there you are. Yeah, you were cutting out earlier. It's fairly good. If you're on Wi-Fi, try plugging. Okay, it's gone now.
Hello?
Whatever. Cool, so I'm going to assume that the connection's go.
Are we back?
I don't know. I've been talking. Connection issue might be an issue. Hello?
Hello? Am I back? Are we back?
You are back for now. Oh, you're moving. Your eyes are moving. Yeah, I think.
Testing. Can you hear me?
Oh, you're back? Oh. Yeah, I can hear you.
There is definitely a delay here. I don't know if we should keep going or what we should do here.
It's kind of like stabilized right now.
Seems like it is. So we can just trim all that there.
Okay, cool.
Or we can just salvage whatever's left of it. So if you watch this part of the live, which I don't think anyone has, but hey, you can see all the bloopers and stuff, which I guess this is an advertisement to watch the live version of this. So we were talking about Agent Zri. She's kind of like a prankster stealth character who's she pops up in various missions, and she'll just be like, poof, right up behind you and scare you, and she'll just be like, "Hey, what can I do for you guys?"
Oh, you cut out a little bit again. I think you stabilized. But I love that. I love these characters that are just well written, and it's an MMO. There's like hundreds of characters that you have to create. And the fact that they took the time to like give each one a little bit of a personality and give each one like a few character traits, and they're not just the generic like, "Hey, stop. Who goes there? God might get nervous. Man approaches with his weapon drawn," kind of like NPC, you know? Like
Right? Yeah, they don't
they're
feel like
not
that.
these guys. They're people. There's Zri and they're Ton and they're people. And I love that. You know, Tybalt was my friend. You know, I had gone on like a 5-10 minute tirade with another friend of mine. I was like, you know, video games are great because they will say shit to you that will make you feel something. Like I don't think I've ever had someone say things to me that Tybalt Right Fang or whatever the rest of his name was has said to me.
Something paw. I don't know what it is.
I think it was Left Paw.
I think it is left paw,
He,
even though
he
his
had
right hand is the one. Well, I guess it's because it's the only paw he has left. His left paw.
he had a whole like three-tiered name that I forget. It was like Tybalt Left Paw something something something.
Yeah, and then his order titled the Lightbringer.
Yeah, eventually he was the Lightbringer. So, anyways, we've said words like Silvari, Char, Asura, Norn. What do those things mean?
Those are the 5 major races of the game. They're all on the continent, or, well, it's both the continent and the name of the planet, Tyria. So Tyria is divided up into, a couple big continents. The biggest middle one is Central Tyria, where the humans primarily occupy. They used to occupy almost all of Central Tyria. They had empires spanning really huge parts of the world. And they've kind of fallen in the last millennia. They've lost a bunch of wars. Their gods left them. They started being under war with centaurs, and the Char, which we'll get into, are at war with them.
Centaurs.
Yeah, and everyone. It seems like all the furry creatures are like, "Damn you, humans!" So they live in the massive country of Kryta. That's like the last human stronghold. It's got the biggest human city called Divinity's Reach. And if you've played an MMO, you've been to like these capital cities and you've walked around and you're like, "Oh, these are pretty cool. I like the designs." And the only game I could even compare these cities to is World of Warcraft. Other MMOs, their cities are they're pretty cool, but they're not as big, they're not as spanning, and they like Divinity's Reach is essentially just like a big giant ring, and each part of the ring is divided into a spoke divided to each of the 6 gods. So you have these each wings of the city, and then the big central district, which is where the temple is, or the palace is. So the city is designed immaculately, and there's so much housing that it feels like, wow, humans could actually live here. It's not just like 10
huge.
different little houses.
Yeah, it's not like the one of the games I have the most experience with, like MMO wise, is New World. And you go and play New World, and it's like, oh, this settlement has like 5 houses, and
But
like
a population of 2,000. It's like, okay, where do you all live?
and like all the players, like, and all the houses that you see are all player houses. So it's like, where does the trading guy live? Where does Fisherman Dan live?
Does
Where
he
does
sleep in his cart?
where does Jonas the fish dude live? You know, like, I don't know. But like when you play Guild Wars, my brain shut off for a second there. You saw that. When you play Guild Wars 2, like Divinity's Reach is a prime example of like, this is a living, breathing city. I got lost. I got lost.
Yeah, you can get lost. You take a right or take a left turn, and you're like, unless you're looking directly at the map the entire time, you can be like, How did I get here?
And even still, because the map is top
It's
down, and there's
Yeah, it's
different
top down
levels of
map.
the
It's only
city.
like 2D, so
Like Holbrecht, which is where the Norns are from, and we'll get to that in a second. Like it had a platform with like 4 platforms, and that's where most of the vendors and the merchants are. And I was so lost. I couldn't figure out where anything was there.
yeah. Okay, there's like 40 merchants up here. I don't know who sells what I need, so I guess I'm just gonna talk to everybody.
And so I guess moving on to the next race, we have the Norns, which are like Skyrim Nords. You
Yeah,
know,
essentially they are like the Nord, but they are like essentially superhumans. They do not consider themselves humans. All they are humanoid. They are essentially just humans, but Hulk sized. They're big, big, big dudes and big, big ladies. If you like that,
Death by Snoo Snoo, if you know what I mean.
they were originally from the most northern part of Tyria, where I don't know. I think it's called the Far Shiver Peaks.
Yes.
Um, that's where they were originally from. They lived in like the mountains. They lived in snow and ice, and they were eventually driven from their home from a battle with the elder dragon Jormak. So now they kind of live very close to the human settlements and in between the humans and the Char, like geographically.
Mm.
Uh, they are a race of proud hunters and nobles. They have a whole basically religion founded on respect and dedication to the wild and the spirits that represent them.
They're very much a race in tune with like nature and the environment around them. And I guess the closest real world equivalent would be like Native American Indians.
Yeah, that's a good example. Yeah, they take a lot of inspiration from that.
But it's like Inuit tribes is also something that I think of when I think of the Norn, because they're just like, what was that one movie with the bears? Was it Brother Bear?
Well, where they're both turned into bears.
Yes, that's what I
Yeah,
think of whenever my character talks.
yeah, no, that makes sense. Yeah, that's a fair.
They
I
have their 4 animal deities. They believe in the snow leopard, the bear, the raven, and
The wolf.
the wolf. Oh my god, we were talking about this like 30
Yeah,
minutes
yeah.
ago.
With
And
those four spirits, you kind of align one with you as the pillar that kind of guides you through your life, through your journey. If you align yourself with the raven, you tend to be more cunning and plan out your fights instead of necessarily just running in with a knife. You'll probably be more likely to be a hunter setting up traps because you'd be thinking more. If you align yourself with the wolf, you're more likely to be the ones that are straight up chasing, the ones that leading the hunt, being in the front lines, leading the charge. And then you have the bears, which are, essentially like the wolves, but they are a lot more in tuned with being rage. They're like the berserkers. They're like the barbarian kind of clan of the Norn. And then the leopards are kind of a mixture of all of them. The leopard is smart, it's cunning, but its biggest aspect is stealth. They are the sneakiest of all of them. They usually try to kill their prey without being seen. So all Norn are essentially just great hunters, and that's their whole goal is just being great hunters, eventually training themselves up to enough to be worthy to go fight Jormag because they want their homeland back.
definitely, and like there's a lot more lore to them than I feel like the regular humans, or let me not say regular humans because they're not human.
Yeah,
They're just
to
human
the
like.
humans. Yeah.
But they have like this strong sense of community and the strong sense of like, I'm gonna back you up because you back me up and we're in this together. And that's exemplified in like the first few missions where you have to go and prove yourself to the tribe, to the community,
Mhm.
that you're worthy of going on this big hunt that they have every year. And so you go and you like do some side quests. You do some gather fetch quests, and then you're like, oh, you're worthy of going on this hunt with us. And then you go and you slaughter this fucking ice worm.
This giant ice worm.
Yeah, you slaughter this giant ice worm, and then you're just like, well, you're the great hunter that has destroyed the being that we were hunting on the yearly quest. And you get the respect of the tribe, and I love the sense of community, because when I was playing my human thief, like, it was very like anonymity and very like I am one in a million. But like playing my Norn necromancer, I was like a valued member of the tribe and the community, and I thought that was really cool.
At least they got that aspect right about being human. They're like, yeah, you're a nobody. You're just one of us. Get in line.
Yeah, like even when I was like really big and coming up in like the story, I still felt like I was kind of nobody.
Right, because you're under all these people, instead of being equals to these great hunters. You're just like, oh, I have to look up to and listen to the chief of the police, Logan, or I have to listen and obey the queen. Oh, if these cops come over here and tell me what to do, I have to listen to them. The Norn don't have that sort of society. Everybody is an equal once you become a adult, and once you become that level of age, everybody is the same. You have the chief, and then everybody else.
And I always thought that was really cool going through it. Just like the sense of, I said community way too many times in this podcast.
But that's a great, it's perfect adjective.
But that is exactly how it felt. Like I was part of the unity. I was part of the tribe, and I led the tribe. Like people would give me my orders and stuff, but like I went out and did it. Like I killed the Jotun. I killed everything. Like I was doing it. I felt
doing it.
And that's not a very good way of explaining what I'm trying to explain. But like, you just, I don't know, take over.
Another
lost my train of thought.
Another race is the Sylvari that we've mentioned, and they are sort of like the Norn in there. We are all one. We are grouped together, and we are all experiencing this life together. At the point you as the player start your personal story, it's in 1325 AD, which is after departure. The gods left the world in, I guess, 00, and they left, and now the humans kind of have been on a downcline since then. But that's not who we're talking about anymore. The Sylvari were born in 1302. So they're only like 23 years old. Their oldest person is 24, maybe 24 by the time you start the story.
That's crazy. I didn't even know that.
Yeah, so they were seeded by a great centaur and a great human from the Shining Blade. They together planted I don't know what the seed was called, but they planted the seed and it grew the pale tree, which was the first Sylvari. And then after the Sylvari started kind of just coming up. They're a race of plant-like people. They're not necessarily made of wood. The game never states their biology specifically, but they are very clearly plant people.
Pikmin. They're totally Pikmin.
Some of them have like thorns growing out of them. Some of them have leaves for hair. Some of them just have wood all over them. They're very, very plant-like, and they grow / they are born at full size, and they are essentially born as adults. And then they just walk around seeking knowledge and trying to learn from the other Sylvari, and more specifically from the centaur Ventari. They kind of learn all of their major teachings from that, such as act with wisdom, but act. That's one of his core teachings.
I know they go on like spirit journeys. They call it the Wild Hunt, and basically it's like, to my understanding, and you correct me if I'm wrong, but it's sort of like you go out into the world. The pale tree gives you kind of like a directive, or you give yourself a directive, and you try your best to like complete this spirit journey, and it makes you like a full, like it just completes you somehow. Like I know for Traherne's was he wanted to restore Ur, which was the land that Zaitan, the evil like necromancer dragon, took over and like corrupted, and he wanted to cleanse that land, and that was his wild hunt.
The Sylvari, before they are born, they wake up in what is called the dream. They experience a sort of quest that calls to them. For example, if you play as the Sylvari, you the player, you start and you wake up in the dream, and you have to go and kill a corruption dragon. It's essentially just a dragon that's corrupting the dream, and it's made of tree and wood, and you have to essentially kill it to kind of cleanse the dream of this nightmare. And once you wake up, that's kind of your wild hunt. You're like, okay, I have a sense to kill dragons. And that after you wake up from the dream, you are given, as Peter said, your wild hunt, which isn't necessarily anything specific. It could be as simple as I need to go and start a new city, and that's your wild hunt. Or it could be like, your goal is world peace. It's like, how am I going to do that?
Right.
The wild hunt is just this like constant nagging, itching feeling. You ever been like laying in your room and you're like, wait, did I leave the oven on? And you're like, you keep telling yourself you need to get up and check it because you're paranoid about it. That's like the wild hunt. It's not like forcing you to do anything, but you're constantly like, the oven's on. The oven's on. I know the oven's on.
I just imagine Traherne laying in like a hammock made out of a giant leaf, and he's like, wait, did I cleanse Ur of the corruption?
Is Ur cleansed? Crap! Why am I laying here? I gotta go cleanse Ur. How am I even gonna get there? I gotta calm down.
I can't be playing Guild Wars right now. I gotta go cleanse the corruption.
Whoops! Got too meta there.
So I really like the Sylvari for the sense that they have this really good sense of community, but they also are very like wise in what they're doing. And it's where the Norn were very boasty, and they were about like both propping themselves up and being like, I'm the best. The Sylvari were like, we all what is the word I'm looking for? We all progress together. And it's a very like cumulative, like, you know what I'm saying? Like they're almost like a hive mind. Like that's the
very
thing.
closely. They all look up to the pale tree together, and they all see it as their mother. They are all brothers and sisters together, even though they can, meet up and have lovers, and I think they can make kids. I don't know how that works. Again, the biology is not stated for the Sylvari because they're so new. They themselves might not know yet because they're born as adults. So if somebody comes up and tries to be like, hey, I'm going to experiment on you, they're like, whatever that is, I don't like it. I don't want to be a part of whatever that is.
Maybe they propagate, they cut off their arm and plant it, and then another Sylvari grows. I don't know. But in all seriousness,
think about.
But in all seriousness, they are another cool, because they're kind of like quasi kind of mystical religious kind of vibe.
Yeah, very, yeah.
But it's not like how it's normally overdone by most games and most like media, where it's like, oh, they're the peace, love, and plants kind of people, whatever. The Sylvari are still fucking badasses. They can still be fucking cool.
They got great warriors, they got scouts, they got assassins.
What was it, the Pale Reavers company? That was like
Pale Reavers.
The Pale Reavers were like this company or regiment of like scouts that decided they wanted to come with us while we were conquering Ur from the dragon, and they
knew they could be extra special because they're immune to being zombies. They can't be zombies because they're plants.
Mm-hmm. And what do you call it? They just like came around. They're like, we're gonna guard your tanks while you advance because we're fucking cool. And they were badasses. They were like the best NPCs we had run into in my like time playing Guild Wars. Wow, it's like calling your ex-lover's name.
In the missions you're running with, one of them, they run a full squadron of snipers. So you're running up, and any enemy that you target, every one of them just points their lasers at him and just goes, "Boop," and then their sniper doesn't just shoot one shot. It shoots a salvo of 5 rounds a piece at them.
It
So
is
your
definitely a
army of
Gatling
little
sniper
pale
rifle
reavers are just like, here's 40 sniper bullets.
each.
So that
It's
mission's great. And then the next mission that you're in, you can either have them full on like just attack with melee and fight with you in a crowd, or you can go completely stealth and ignore the whole mission because they're a group of scouts, so they're obviously adept at stealth and traversal. So they're like, we're good at killing, but we're good at sneaking. So it's your choice, Commander. What do you want to do?
and that's
And that's
another
what's great is you get choices.
that's why we wanted to touch on that right now too. Is Guild Wars has a lot of choice in what you're doing. Like no two, like it's almost like branching kind of storytelling where like no two playthroughs will ever be the same because like you make this one choice and it leads to two different choices and that leads to two different choices and it just becomes this branching story narrative of like, well, you have all these choices, but at the end your choices made you.
If you wanted to go, for example, you as a Norn, if you wanted to go through the story from beginning to end and get every mission because of each different branching choice, you'd probably have to make 10 different characters, at least.
Yep.
Some of them are really simple. It's like, hey, do you want to go in this mission as disguised, or do you want to just go in guns blazing? And then which one you choose, if you go in guns blazing, you might accidentally get caught. And then that sends you on a second mission where you have to go retrieve your ally because your ally got caught. If you did the stealth mission, though, maybe you failed to get in there, and then you end up going guns blazing on accident. So it's like, oh, it was a reverse card mission. I thought I was making one choice, but it was a different choice.
What was that one choice we had to make towards the end where it was like, do you want to blow up his Zaitan's navy, or do you want to roll in with tanks, or do you want to go
just scouts? The random last lady. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, you're good, but it was like, or can you go rescue these scouts? And it's like, one of these is not like the others.
Like, yeah, frontal assault with tanks. Oh, we're gonna kill them with our naval force. Hey, can you go help on my homies real quick?
My guys fell in an anthill. My guys fell in an anthill and they got really bit up.
No offense, but this is not the time to be asking that. You can go help. Like, you can ask them for help over there.
And it was like, my question was, why the fuck are you going out to explore right now when we're planning a frontal assault on the capital?
Well, I guess you would have to make another character to pick that mission to find out.
I guess so, because I had so many questions about that. So to wrap up that, Sylvari, fucking awesome. They're so cool. They're mystical, like, thinkers of the world.
Very wise, like you said.
And which one do you want to do now? Asura?
The other really wise race is the Asura.
Oh, I love the Asura, the little goblins.
Yeah, they're essentially like goblins and dwarves, and I feel like there's another thing mixed in there, but that's a pretty good combination of both of them. There are dwarves in Tyria. There are dwarves, so they have their own thing going on. They have their own story. So the Asura are not a stand-in for dwarves in this story. Dwarves exist, but the Asura were a race of underground dwelling people. They were burrowed deep into the earth, like towards the core, and they had great cities underneath the earth, and they focus their entire society on science, alchemy, and magic science. So they have like 3 colleges they focus on, and everyone in the Asura kind of, as long as you're not like a delinquent nobody, which there's plenty of them, anyone that's anybody in the Asura society tries to be a great inventor or tries to be the next person to inspire a sort of golden age with them. But unfortunately, them living under the ground didn't live or last for too long because they, like the Norn, were forced out of their home by battles with the minions of the dragon Primordius. They're called the Destroyers. So the Destroyers came in and they messed up the Asura's homeland, and they kind of had to be forced to the surface, which hasn't been like too bad for them. They've kind of prospered a lot. They have a massive city in the southwest of Tyria, It's called Radasum. It's like a giant floating cube, and almost all the Asura in the region live in the city. Of course, there's people that don't want to be, nobody wants to be their father's kid forever, or, nobody wants to be felt like they have to do something if they don't want to do it. So there's a group of like offshoot Asura that, just become regular merchants or go live with humans or, go be a sailor. Not everyone's built to be a scientist. So the Asura are a lot more varied than they appear on the surface or that they try to present themselves to be to other people. Because they are so small and vulnerable physically, they really try to make up with it for being super smart. They invented the what's called the Asura Gate network. You have the waypoint system, which functions pretty simply. If you are able to use waypoints, I assume there's a magic stone in your pocket. It's not exactly explained because it's a gameplay mechanic.
Is that a
But
magic
if you
stone in your pocket, or are you happy to see me? I'm sorry, I was
here.
I was like looking for a spot to contribute, and that was my contribution. So there you go. But the Asura are really cool because their architecture after they came up above ground is like very Mesoamerican, kind of like Mayan Aztec-y kind of feel. And they made golems, which, a lot of times golems are like kind of lame looking. They're like, oh, it's this big clay golem. But these guys are like super sleek and like very robotic feeling. They're very futuristic. And
they look like robots, but they're called golems because they're not made with mechanics. They're put together with alchemy or with arcane magic. So they're by definition golems and not robots.
They are animated through golemancy, so they are technically a golem, but they look like Tron.
Yeah, they look slick as shit. They are cool. Sleek. We should have pulled up some artwork for that stuff, but whatever.
Whatever.
They look cool. And like Peter said, their architecture is, you can see it from miles away. You instantly know, oh, the Asura built that thing. It's glowing. It's shooting lightning out of it. It's got magical symbols floating on it. It's made out of like goldish stone. Yeah, that's Asura.
But not a mystical vibe. Like everything is very materialistic and very like rooted in the world. Like it's based on fundamental science. Which
it's not like sci-fi. They're not just making like, flat flying cars and stuff.
So I thought the Asura were very cool, and that was my third character that I made.
The Asura are pretty useful to anyone that, allies themselves with it. They are a very government-run. They're very bureaucratic because everyone is either in school or they're in like the council or in the government, or they're nobody. So it's kind of a caste system in that form. And speaking of caste systems, if we want to get into the last major race, it's the Char. The Char are the definition of a caste race.
The goat cats.
Yep, they're horned, cat-like, humanoid creatures. They are taller than humans. Some of them are bigger than Norn, depending on how big the Norn are. But the Char are they're like 8-9 feet tall cat people. And they got horns and big saber teeth, and sometimes they got tusks. Sometimes they have crazy hair. Sometimes it's just the fur on their body. But they are really cool in terms of character design. I really like that whenever you play as them, if you're running, you run on all fours. I think that's just a nice touch. It reminds me, I don't know what it reminds me of, but I like it.
It's just this primal urge that you get inside yourself when you're playing a Char. You're like, I want to go destroy things! I want to go murder! Like, it's freaking awesome.
And that is like the Char's like apothos is war, destruction, and conquering through pure force. They
Blood,
have been
fire,
in
and
a
steel. They are the badasses of Tyria.
They've been in a war with a group of humans that took their homeland in the country of Alona. The Char originally were the sole natives of Ilona, and I'm sorry, Ascalon, not Alona. My apologies, Ascalon.
They're from the. For a second. I'm like, they're from the desert.
No, yes, thank you. Yeah, thank you. I saw your face and you're like, I'm saying something wrong here. No, yeah, it's Ascalon. Yeah, they lived in Ascalon, and then the humans, once they spread from Kryta, took over Ascalon and kind of drove the Char out. Uh the Char have been very upset ever since then, and they went into a full-on war. They switched from being kind of just, I wouldn't call them savages, but they were kind of just, like just cat people
Tribal,
living out and chilling and just living in little groups and whatever.
tribal.
They were tribal. Yeah. Not savage, they were tribal. And then the Ascalon humans come in, they screw up their country, and then the Char are like, all right, so we get revenge. So they finally get revenge after like hundreds of years, and they plan an assault, and they get the king trapped. And the king has nowhere to go, and he's going to surrender. And, he's going to give up, and finally the Char are going to be able to take back their kingdom. And then instead, the crazy human king decides to curse the entire land and break a magical sword. He breaks the magical sword and it explodes in like a super ball of fire, and any Char nearby are instantly killed, and any humans that knew that the king were going to do this were trying to flee, and everybody died except for the humans. The king was so mad and so bitter about this that he turned every human that he killed into ghosts. And now these ghosts are permanently in a battle with the Char to defend their homeland. It's the Char's homeland, and they were going to have to permanently fight ghosts now until they can break this curse or find a way to permanently kill ghosts.
That's a very controversial opinion you hold there. Is it Char homeland or is it Ascalon homeland? Oof. Don't want to get into that flame war.
Are you racist? Speaking of flame wars, the Flame Legion, when we'll get into the legions right after this, the Flame Legion are the kind of like evil version of the Char. Anyone that isn't in the Black Citadel, which is the home of the Char, is essentially split off, and they formed their own Flame Legion. They're a bunch of big jerks, and they are kind of just terrorists. But the rest of them are separated into, I believe, four distinct legions. You've got the Iron Legion, which their whole thing is like mechanics, war machines, tanks, cannons, guns. That's their thing.
Combat engineers.
Exactly. That's where all their engineers are. I'm pretty sure Tybalt was probably Iron Legion.
No, he definitely was. I remember that. I remember that clip.
Oh, great. Well, look at that. You know about Tybalt.
I know things because I care about the story. Because the game made me care.
And then the Iron Legion, since they focus on like all machineries, they're kind of in it's not a physical feud, but they are in a long-standing feud with the other major faction, which is the Blood Legion. Their whole thing is swords, warrior combat. Blood, blood, blood. Slice them up, kill them.
Blood for the blood god, skulls for the skull throne. This is
Yep, they paint their armors in red. All of their weapons are red. Sometimes they use fire because they want their enemies to be red. But the Blood Legion is blood. And then you have the Ash Legion, which is the they're kind of weird in the sense of the Char, because they are saboteurs, they're planners, they are stealthy, they get in and out, they don't necessarily kill everyone in the area, they only go for their targets. They are kind of like the Spec Ops Legion.
Which is really weird for Char, because Char are like a very guns blazing kind of society. They're like, we're going to kill everything, we're going to go in, we're going to destroy everything. We are guts, blood, and iron. This is my whole identity. And the Ash,
they remind me of orcs from Warhammer.
They are very much like orcs, but like smart orcs.
Yeah.
Because like orcs could not make tanks. Like World of Warcraft orcs could not make a tank as good as a Char could.
Oh, definitely. No, the Char are really smart.
And that's the thing. Like, I love that, like, because I'm a huge fan of dwarves in, like, most media, and I love that, like, every race kind of has, like, a sprinkling of dwarf on them.
Yeah,
like,
definitely.
The Char have their grudges, the Asura have their, like, engineering prowess, and the Norn have their, like, kind of Nordic Viking.
Oh, their big old beards, and, yeah, their Nordic feel.
You know, every race kind of has, like, a dwarven feel to it. Like, I could identify pieces of like dwarfishness and I love that.
It makes sense in the world too, because the dwarves were a massive part of the world a long time ago. The reason the dwarves aren't around anymore is because of the dragon that drove the Asura out of their homeland. We're really messing with the dwarves too. So the dwarves banded together and they kind of drove Primordus, the elder dragon, towards the center of Tyria, so into like the core of the world. And they drove him so far into the world that they couldn't really pursue him. But they had him on the run, they had him weak, and they could, in theory, beat him. Not necessarily kill him because they don't know how to kill an elder dragon, but they can beat him. So the dwarves make the choice to turn everyone, well, I guess everyone, because there's no canonized non-dwarf this didn't happen to. But all the dwarfs get together and they perform a ritual to turn them all into stone, living stone. And they use this stone skin to go deep into the core of the world and fight back Primordus. They are successful. Almost all of them are extinctified in this fight because they're fighting an elder dragon. But they end up beating back Primordus and putting him to sleep for, I think, up until like right now. I think Primordus is still asleep.
Hint, hint for the next DLC.
Primordus, it does come in later, yeah, of course. You will see all the dragons. I mean, this is called Guild Wars because of the first game where the Guild Wars actually happened. We're not going to get into that because that was thousands of years ago in terms of Guild Wars time. So it doesn't even, like, almost none of the events matter. The only events that matter in Guild Wars 1 were the very end where Destiny's Edge happened. Destiny's Edge is a group of NPCs that help you throughout the story. They're a group of dragon slayers that beat back at least one dragon and a dragon lieutenant. And ever since then, they disbanded because they had a bunch of arguments. They lost one of their members in one of the battles, and then lost another one of their members shortly after that. So they were just kind of like, we lost two people, and we lost our fight. I'm out of here. And they all just kind of disbanded.
Honestly, like, I don't want to talk shit about anything about this game because I love it so much, but Destiny's Edge is a bunch of bitches. Like,
they're a bunch of
like
midlife crisis wine bags.
The
only good one that's not whiny is Ritlock.
Ritlock is pretty cool. I'll give them that. But everybody else kind of sucks. They get introduced as like this big feuding group of like adventure guild, like this big adventure guild that just like fell apart, and they're like, oh, now we're mad at each other. And I'm like, there's a fucking dragon.
Yeah, they're so petty. They're squabbling
together.
They're literally one of the only people in the entire world qualified to lead and form a group of new dragon killers. They have professionally killed dragon before,
and they're too busy bitching at each other.
Yeah,
also,
so Ritlock and Logan are two of them. They're in a feud because during the fight, the last fight they had together, Logan had to return back to Kryta to save his queen from an invasion. So he left his guild to go save his queen because
conflict of priorities.
Yeah, and he also loves Jenna. Oops, whoops, his girlfriend is in danger.
Oh no. Also, I just want to throw this in because my brain has been going off. Cat alert.
Oh yeah, you can see Ezio down here in the corner. If you're a visual listener, you can see my big fat cat. He's just laying here in the frame over here.
The cat walked in and is like John Cena, like, burr, burr, burr. It's a fucking cat.
Yeah, right.
And my brain has just not stopped. So thank you for indulging me. Anyways, Destiny's Edge, bunch of bitches. I can't stand them. They're
literally squabbling over petty shit. Like, the only valid complaint any of them have is that one of their friends died. It's like, are you just going to sit around pointing the fingers at why your friend died? Or are you going to try to avenge your friend?
Even that point, I kind of felt like was just not well done. Because it was kind of like...
Destiny's Edge sucks.
Yeah, Destiny's Edge kind of sucks.
They're a bunch of wine bags.
Yeah, and when we because we did Heart of Thorns, which is the first DLC, so I can get my glider. And, they were like, oh, Destiny's Edge is missing. I thought this was a person. I thought this was a really cool, badass, singular person.
Oh,
And then
yeah.
I meet Destiny's Edge, and they're just a bunch of bitches. And I'm
Oh, yeah,
like,
you go back in time to meet, because the only reason we did the glider, or the story, is to get the glider.
yeah,
We should talk about this. We did the game part of it, but the game has 3 DLCs currently, and each DLC gives you new mechanics. The first DLC, Heart of Thorns, gives you the glider. The second DLC gives you a majority of the mounts, and the mounts are great. We could talk about that later. And then the third one gives you fishing and boats and access to a whole new continent.
fishing and boats are lame.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's pretty lame.
That's the one DLC I don't have, so I talk crash about it.
Yeah, the DLC, it's same. Like the country is great and it's got a lot of cool story, but the perks of fishing and a boat. What one of the mounts can drive on water? Why would I need a boat?
The boat's kind of cool looking. It's very like Asiatic, kind of like Chinese, ethnically kind of. It's cute. It's adorable. It's just a boat. Whatever.
Right, it's just a boat. I don't care. I don't need a boat.
And like
I'm an adventurer.
Fishing doesn't make enough of an impact in.
I don't have any clue what fishing is for. I've been playing the game for almost 10 years now, and I've only had the DLC for about a year now. Still no clue what fishing is for. I've asked people in game, hey, what do I use fishing for? They're like, end game materials. I'm like, yeah, I'm in the end game. What do you mean? What do I have to fish for legendary parts? Does one of the legendary I need fish bones for? Like, what do I need to fish for?
Have not run into a moment.
Food? I could just buy food on the trading post.
Yeah, like I have not been gate kept by fishing yet, so I'm just like, fishing is kind of dumb. It's just like an arbitrary mechanic that's been shoehorned in because we have a new DLC, and it's just whatever.
They just wanted something for players to sink their time back into, I guess. I don't know.
Mm-hmm. But then like, there's fishing spots in every place, like in the starter
there's fishing
areas,
spots all over the place, and you just see random players on boats just fishing. Like, what are you doing?
What are you talking about? I have not seen a single player fishing since we've started, until we did the festival, which is like this world event that comes out every so often. I had not seen any single person fishing. Never seen it, but I've seen all these fishing areas. So I'm thinking like fishing must be important because it goes back all the way to the starting area. And then as I've gotten to level 80, I've realized, no, fishing is dumb. It's lame.
Yeah, I've never even heard of fishing be useful. So until somebody can prove me otherwise, until we can go and play End of Dragons together, who knows? But until anyway, then, so we jump into Heart of Thorns, and like you said, they're like, oh, Destiny's Edge, we gotta find them. And you're like, oh, cool, who are these people? And then they're go back
so
in time,
important.
And then you start doing your personal story, and you meet one of them right off the bat because you're a Norn, and Destiny's Edge has 5 members, and each of them are from the 5 races.
So you will meet one really quickly.
Air Stagulkin. You meet her right at the beginning, and she kind of like guides you through being a hunter, and she helps you on a couple of missions because she's a wise old hunter, and she likes to help people and kind of grow them into their own legends. So you meet her right off the bat, and then
she's hot.
Yeah,
she's fucking hot.
She's also tall, got big titties, and really revealing armor.
She is like wearing like one piece of bear fur in the snow.
And then the rest is just like leather straps.
And she's got a leg tattoo that stretches all the way down her leg. Like it's a big tribal tattoo. Like I was in love with Air for a long time. And then once Destiny's Edge got together and they met or re-met or whatever, I was like, you'll suck. Like even you, mommy, you suck.
It's like, yeah, can't you just like be the adult? Like be the adult that you're pretending to be and like you trained me to be? Can't you like just... Can't you just say, Zoja, I'm sorry. You're right. It was my fault. I apologize. Even if you don't believe it, can't you just, be the bigger woman and just say, I'm sorry?
And that was kind of the thing. I want to touch back on that story element where Zoja and Air are like mad at each other because Snaf died. Like Zoja totally on her side. Like, your friend died because this person dropped the ball. Air, why are you mad? You dropped the ball. But Air is equally mad at Zoja.
Yeah,
And I'm just
I
like,
don't get it.
why is this an argument?
Mhm.
This is so stupid. This is like the Logan Ritlock argument where I'm kind of like, I see both sides. I don't see both sides with the Soja Air argument.
No, it's pretty much definitely in the favor of Soja. Snaf was her best friend and her mentor, and they are two of the founding members of one of the guilds. So, they've always been together. So, Zoja being mad that Air wasn't defensive or proactive enough. Now, you can't blame Air for getting Snaf killed, but you can be mad because Air didn't perform her role as the protector for Snaf. You can be like, you didn't do your job, okay? Logan ran away and you let Snaf die, okay?
Yeah,
I'm pretty
it's like
upset about the situation.
it's like when your tank doesn't tank. Like you can
Right.
be mad about that.
Yeah. And then you can't be mad at the DPS for dying. It's like,
That's his job. Half of his job is dying.
if you was
As a
doing your
certified
tank job, if you was doing your tank job, this would literally not be an argument. You can't be mad at me for dying. If you was doing your job, I would have never died in that position.
because you were supposed to take the aggro, and they're
Right.
never supposed to notice me stabbing them in the butthole.
Yep. But anyway, Snaf dies, and then Zoja's all mad about it, which is rightfully so,
Can we take a minute to talk about like the Trinity and like things like that in Guild Wars? Because there is no, and like I just want to, I like big sign up here. There is no Trinity in
Oh, like for
Guild
like
Wars.
roles?
There is no DPS healer tank Trinity.
Nope. You are all three roles at all times.
Like
The game is heavily skill based, and it has a dodge roll. So you get invincibility frames at any time just by rolling. So if you're skillful with your dodge rolls, as long as you have stamina, you can dodge. And every single character, no matter what build you go into, your sixth ability. So you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then number 6 is always a heal. Whether it's like a passive heal on hit, or press this button to get a burst of healing, or press this button and drop a turret that shoots you with healing. Doesn't matter. Every single character, their 6th ability heals. So you never need a designated healer just constantly sitting and throwing spells at you.
Which is so freaking awesome because I'm a certified DPS when it comes to MMOs, so I go in and I stab things. And like if I ever get the aggro on that character, like again, New World. I played New World, I was the DPS, I was a hatchet DPS, and if I ever got the attention of the boss, I was dead. And I would run around and I would die. And that was it. And talking about New World for a minute, they implemented a healer class that if you spec'd into healing, you could not do anything else. Like you were hard coded into healing, and people hated that. My friend Muffin,
not fun.
My friend Muffin, they would have to spec out of their like damage build that they were doing when they were doing MSQ, main story quest, and they would have to like spec into healing again so we could do dungeons. And that sucks. No one wants to be the bitch ass healer.
Nobody wants to be forced to do it. Some people like healing, but nobody wants to be forced. Like, I just wanted to play tank. I have 30 minutes before work, man. I just wanted to do one dungeon real quick, man. Do I really have to jump on my healer?
That sucks.
It's not fun.
When you go into Guild Wars, you are your certified tank, healer, DPS. Like you are responsible for all your stuff. Now there is a toughness value that determines like who gets the aggro and all things that how many dungeons have we done? Like we've done like 6-7 runs of dungeons. I've never paid attention to that.
Nope, it's not important. It's not like you got into the dungeon and you're like, okay, quick, let me check. All right, who's on my team? What class do we got? Oh crap, we have 2 engineers. What do we need 2 engineers for? No, that's not a worry, because the engineer does plenty. They can carry themselves. They don't take too much damage because of their range. They got the healing turrets.
The engineer is great. I can't wait to play more of that later on. But like we ran a dungeon with 4 necromancers and we were fine.
Yeah, 4 necromancers and 1 thief, and it was not a problem at all.
Because you have your own heal spell. you don't allocate stats the way you do in a traditional MMO. Like you get stats, like you just get blanket stats all throughout, and then your equipment you specialize for whatever stats you want on top of your blanket stats. So like
Typically 3.
typically 3 or 4, yeah.
So like, attack, crit chance, crit damage.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty simple. Or health, toughness, and critical damage. It can be any combination of 3, sometimes 4, or a certain armor set that lets you have all of the stats, but at a lower value.
Right. So you essentially like you get a buff. It's how do I put this? For anyone who has ever played Pokemon, it's the equivalent of EV training your Pokemon. Like you have your level 100 stats, and you're sprinkling on a little extra on top of that. So you're already a level 100 Mewtwo, but you're a level 100 Mewtwo who has trained into a little bit extra special attack.
Yeah, because as long as you have level 80 gear, which is, like we said, the max level, as soon as you get level 80 and you get it's called exotic armor. As soon as you get exotic armor, that armor is going to carry you. The armor set that Peter's wearing right now, he just hit level 80 and just got his first full set of level 80 armor. That armor is going to carry him all the way until End of Dragons and even the new DLC that's coming out. He doesn't have to upgrade and get better armor unless he wants it. The next tier up, mathematically, even at peak absolute Reddit math, it only gives you 12% increase in stats, which isn't a lot. And there's only a couple game modes in the game that you need those stats in. There's raids, which you need to have that kind of stats for, and then there are a thing called fractals, which are just repeatable pocket dimension dungeons, and those have really special debuffs that you need that powerful of armor, or you're gonna die. But that's it. That's the level 80 armor that Peter has. He never needs better armor. It's not like Destiny where you're constantly grinding towards the next week's level cap. It's not like you stop playing for a month and then you come back and then your team's like, "Oh, I'm good to see you. You ready to raid?" And you're like, "No, I need to run a couple strikes. I need to go transmute this stuff. I need to go do the new season. I'm sorry. I got to play for 25 hours before I can play this 4-hour mission."
No, I can't raid with you boys. My armor, it's rusted over. It's from when I was a young Destiny player. No. That's not the case. I have my level, what I'm wearing, I have my Necromancer picture pulled up on my other screen, so I just pointed at it. But, my gear that I'm wearing right now is the gear that I'm going to be wearing for a long, long time. Everything else is going to be salvaged and scrapped just for
now. Something you will do is you'll probably get a new armor skin because there's like we mentioned, there's the transmog system. So anytime you unlock a new or get a new piece of armor, if you break it down or bind it to your account, you unlock the skin for it forever. So you'll always, at any time, if you want to switch back to that old pirate hat you had, because if you're feeling piratey this season, you just go get a couple transmog charges, pick a piece of armor, and change the appearance of it.
I had just done something at the end of once we beat Zaitan and we finished the final mission of the campaign. I had gotten this really cool hood that had a skull mask, and I was like, "Oh my god, that's so much better than my Reaper hood!" But I liked my Reaper hood stats, so I transmogged my Reaper hood into the skull hood, so it looks like I have a little skull mask under the hood, but I still have my Reaper hood stats.
Yep, and you don't have to change your armor piece at all.
Mm-hmm. And I think that's really cool. Something I really like about Guild Wars 2 is that cosmetics are not hidden behind this barrier like most MMOs. If you ever played Warframe, fashion framing is very expensive.
Yeah. Now, obviously in Guild Wars, you have the option to buy items on the gem store, which is the premium currency. You can buy exclusive skins on there, which aren't exclusive, that's the wrong word. You could buy skins on the gem store using gems and putting in your credit card if you want. But Guild Wars is a player-run game. It's a living world. It's a living economy. It has a trading post that is updated every 30 seconds. And you can use this trading post to convert your gold in-game to gems. And the conversion ratio is pretty generous. if you convert 100 gold into gems, you can get like 150, 200 gems. So if you want that 800 gem item, just get a couple hundred gold. It's not that, I mean, it'll take you a while, but you don't have to put in your credit card. You don't have to go spend all this money for all these cool cosmetics. There's plenty of free cosmetics and cosmetics that are unlocked through questing and dungeons that you can just get for free, and then use all your gold to convert to gems to get the cool skins, like the glowing sword or whatever you wanted.
I just want to bring this up again. I didn't pay for this. I did not spend a single cent on looking this badass.
Nope, not at all. That's just how good the armor looks in the game.
And this is not even like, well, it is pretty good armor, but like, it's not like god tier, like I bought it, like pay to win armor. Like, this is armor that was easily crafted in the game. Well, you crafted it for me, so I'm maybe not shoot my mouth off. I don't know how much effort you put into it, but it was craftable. We made it. I'm wearing it. The dye was free. Like, all of this was basically free dye, except for like the black dye, which Annie got for me for like, what was it?
5
like
gold?
5 gold? I was going to say 10, but even better. 5 gold for the black dye. And dye is like consumable. Like, I have it. Now it's linked to my account. Every character I have can use black dye.
Yep.
So
any character can use your dye.
I look so freaking cool. And I didn't pay any money. I didn't buy a Zendaya or whatever they're called in Warframe. I didn't pay for like 50 million like color palettes that all suck.
Joe, ain't that the truth?
Like, the color palettes suck in Warframe. I'm not gonna lie to you.
On the Warframe episode, I didn't touch too much on that, but yeah, that is the thing you have to do. You have to buy color palettes. Now, I mean, in Guild Wars, you have to buy dye, but you get dye for free. You can kill, like, I'm pretty sure most monsters in the game have like a 2% chance to drop an unidentified dye pack.
I feel
so you can just be killing mobs in the game and just get dye.
I feel like I picked up so much dye too. It's like, wow. Like, look at all this dye, man. And the starter dye that they give you are really good. It's not like Warframe, where the starter dye they give you in Warframe kind of sucks. Like, they're all
you
very,
have
like,
ugly
muted.
red, ugly blue, ugly white, not white.
They're all very muted, kind of like off-ish colors of what you really want. And if you want the high res, like crisp colors, you got to pay like 400 platinum for it. No, this is not the case in Guild Wars. Guild Wars gives you a nice range of colors right from the get-go, and they look really good, and they're free. I love
the game is free to start too. I mean, we should have said it at the beginning when we were talking about
this
the game.
This game is free.
You can play the entire base campaign, which Peter just finished today before we started recording, because we wanted to make sure we were fresh to be able to talk about Zaytan dying.
I'm a Dragon Slayer. It's official as of
absolutely
30. No, I'm sorry, like 2 hours ago.
You killed an Elder Dragon. There's only I think you're the only person on the planet that can say that. Well, you as the commander.
I'm a badass.
But yeah, the base story is free to play. You can go to basically all zones. You can explore. You can do the dungeons. You can party up. I think you can join a guild. There's not a whole lot that's locked behind the paid content, other than the big thing, which we just were talking about, the market.
Yeah.
If you want to use the trading post to buy anything from players, you need to upgrade your account.
That I didn't like. I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. Like, yeah. I did not like that I couldn't access the market from the beginning, and the fact that once I upgraded, I had to wait 4 days.
Yeah, it's like a verification or like a soft thing. It's not your fault, but it's the case of botting. You haven't probably experienced it yet, but there are zones in the world where there will be literally entire hordes of necromancers and engineers just running around, auto casting skills, killing enemies in the area, just farming to be like, I assume, gold farming.
Well, okay, that's fair. But 4 days? Come on. Like,
yeah, it's not that hard for a bot farmer to just make a batch of accounts on Monday and then by Saturday it'd be ready.
Yeah, I didn't appreciate that, but I got through it and it was fine. If that's the worst thing I had to deal with while playing Guild Wars is great.
Yeah, if you get through and get all the way to level 80 and you're like, that wasn't fun. Well, what do you do besides spend some time? If you love it though and you're like, oh, I want to go do some more stuff. There are 3 DLCs, as I mentioned, and 5 living world seasons. So just touching on that just a little bit before we wrap up for this episode. The living worlds are often just as long, if not longer, than some of the seasons or some of the DLCs. Season 1 is short. Right after you beat Zaitan, we're going to be able to go do Season 1 now. Season 1 is free. You don't have to buy it. It's given to you because it was the original Living World season, and they cut it off from the players for like 8 years. It was unplayable. And then they slowly started re-releasing it as they remastered the base story and implemented that content back in there. So you have that story for free. The first season has 5 episodes, which each episode has like 5 or 6 sub-chapters in it, like different missions, go to this, do this, meet up with these people. So the chapters aren't just one mission. And then you have the second season, which I think has 16 chapters. The first DLC has 17 chapters. Then you have season 3, which has another 18. I think in total there's like 100 chapters.
Which a lot of times I would have been there with the viewers, or maybe not with the viewers, whatever. Like, I would have been there like, I have to get through all this. I'm excited for story. I want to meet new Tawns and new Tybalts and new Thries. God damn it.
You're going to meet Timey, and you're going to love Timey. Timey will be the one. And you might not like Braum, but you'll like Braum. Braum is a big, lovable idiot. You'll be like, Braum's okay. Then there's Marjorie. There's so many good characters that just have such a great arc that you haven't even met yet. And it's so, just that alone is like, I get to meet new characters.
Marjorie Delacroix, Roger's like persona from one episode of American Dad. I swear to God,
like a fake ass name.
I swear to God, it's the thing. Marjorie Delacroix. That is such a like, I'm really good at making up fake names kind of fake name. But she's a really cool character. Like, from the like little bits I've seen of her, she's a really cool. She's like a necromancer or private eye, right? Is that what you were telling me?
Yep, that's pretty much it.
She's so fucking cool. Like, that's so cool just to think about. It's like Nick Valentine from Fallout, but like, I also raised the dead.
Oh, yep. Whoops.
Fucking cool.
So what are you most looking forward to in the next couple days that you play Guild Wars?
I really am excited to get into Heart of Thorns. And like, now that, because you had told me a lot, like, oh, you're gonna go back in time and you're gonna like experience all these characters and meet all these characters, and now they have a major part in the story. I'm really excited to, like, now that I've formed all these bonds with these characters, go through the next saga with them. It's like going from Halo 1 to 2. Like, I've met Sergeant Johnson, and now Sergeant Johnson is in Halo 2, and I get to experience him and dick around with him, you know? That's the kind of vibe. That's the kind of experience that I'm excited for.
I'm just excited to experience it vicariously through you, because Guild Wars is something I obviously have a lot of passion about, and I really like it. So just having one of my friends experience it, like whenever Tybalt was walking in there, you were just like, what is he doing? And I was like, I could have just said, oh, he's just gonna go kill himself. You know, I could have just said it, but I could tell that you were having a moment, so I was just like, and you're like, did he just die? I was like, yeah, he's gone. I was like actually starting to get sad, because I'm getting sad about it now. Tybalt's a good character, okay?
Tybalt
Go play Guild Wars.
Tybalt was an amazing character. Go cry over. Rest in peace, Tybalt. The memorial service is on Thursday. Please wear red. Like,
bring an apple.
Bring an apple. when you play Guild Wars, which you're gonna play Guild Wars after you're done with this podcast, you're gonna understand that about 2 hours in.
You'll know.
You'll understand. But I played so much of this game, and 2 years ago, if you would have told me, Peter, you're gonna play this game called Guild Wars, it's an MMO, and it's really it's not that grindy. It's just a typical MMO. It's kind of like World of Warcraft. I would have been like, "Fuck you," and the click.
No thanks. Fuck that, right?
I would have been very aggressive about it. I would have been, "Fuck you, fuck everything you stand for. I'm never gonna play an MMO, and I'm never gonna enjoy it." But here I am. I've played so much of Guild Wars, and I love it, and I'm ready to play more.
I've alluded to it a couple times in this episode. I kind of really hate MMOs. I don't like MMORPGs. They take too much time. They're not a lot of fun. They're not that interesting. I played a lot of WoW, and I know a lot of the lore. But anytime I'm in a mission, I'm just skip.
Yes.
Please. I just want to be done. Please.
I'm
please.
so over them in WoW.
Yeah. I hate Destiny. I've played thousands of hours of Destiny. It's a great shooter. I don't like the MMO parts of this game. Guild Wars does everything slightly differently, and everything that they do just a little bit differently is what makes it a good game. You could dislike MMOs and still like Guild Wars and still want people to play it with you, because every game is inarguably better with friends.
Almost every game except Super Mario Bros. World.
Yeah, because then you just jump on each other and kill each other.
Every time I play a 2D Super Mario game, I am like, you are no longer my friends. I disown you. We are in a blood feud now because you took my mushroom. Fuck you. I hate playing with other people in Super Mario, but that's another story for another day.
Playing other games is something we're gonna have to think about. We don't have anything teased for next week. And speaking of next week, I do apologize to anyone for us missing last week. We both had some stuff going on, and we were neither of us were able to record anything, so we kind of missed an episode. And I know we say every week, so we're right back on it on this one, and we'll have this out as soon as we can. You know, the live is obviously going to be up as soon as we hit end, and you could watch that if you want, or you can wait until next week for the edit. So anyway, thank you for anyone that stuck around and joined us for this episode. We appreciate it, and we've definitely had a lot of fun talking about this game. And I feel like this is also another game that we could come back to once we've gotten through more of the story, because then we can just focus on talking about that. We don't have to go back into being like, oh, this is what the game is. These are who the characters are. No, we can just be like, oh, this is Guild Wars Part 2. Or Guild Wars 2 Part 2. And if you didn't watch the first episode, you probably should, because there's going to be a lot of terms that we're not going to get into.
Yeah, like I'm not going to explain my dots, my dips, and my do's with you.
Exactly. All right, Peter, do you have any closing statements or thoughts for this week?
Join my guild.
Yeah. If you join Guild Wars, you should leave a comment on YouTube, and we'd be happy to add you to us, because the game functions on like mega servers. So whether you're on any server, it doesn't matter. You can join us and you party up if you wanted to.
For sure, we will play with you 100%. We will slay dragons together for the glory of everything. For the glory of
Tyria, like that big ship.
Oh my god, that ship was awesome. Anyways, we're getting off track. Let's go.
All right, thank you for joining us, everyone. Thank you for joining me, Peter.
For sure.
I will see you next Tuesday.
See you next Tuesday.